Amazing.
Welcome to episode 173 of the most must-see show to ever hit the Bedford TV airwaves, or any airwaves for that matter. North, south, east, west, backwards, frontwards, diagonally, sideways, side to side, any which way you look at it, all around the world. The Wrestling Connection, and I am your host, your connection to the wrestling world, the fedorable felon himself, your pontiff of professional wrestling, the perfect Ken, Mr. Ken Hill, delivering all the news to you in professional wrestling today, and your brand new, your eyes do not deceive you, brand new, first time ever, WK Big Four pay-per-view champion. That's right, this past Sunday was a very eventful Money in the Bank pay-per-view, where not only do we have a new Big Four pay-per-view champion, but not to bury the lead, we have a new three-time WK Queen of Pay-Per-View, all decked out in its finery, WK Queen of Pay-Per-View, three-time Miss Julie Manugian. And alongside her in the control room, as always, the infamous Mr. Greg Dolan.
The titleless Greg Dolan.
Mr. Oh, come on, you don't like being called Mr.? Mr.?
No.
Ouch.
Oh.
How do you do? All right. So, like I said, a very eventful, very interesting, and of course, a very controversial Money in the Bank, especially if you were watching the first ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Julie, I know you were, and I know that there's a whole lot of controversy and unfortunate circumstances coming out of this. So, you know what? Let's just jump right into it. Let's just get right to the meat of the problem. Okay, first off, I like the fact that Carmella won. I like the fact that you had someone who utilized Ellsworth in a no DQ situation to win the championship. I like the fact that she won it. Many will agree with me on this notion. I don't like the way she won it.
All hail McHale!
Okay.
I'm not sure what that happened.
Your
That was
point?
all about. I think he set some sort of bug in the system. It just kind of popped up.
Yeah, that's Greg. Yeah, and you're the kid. You're the kid at the control booth. Come on.
What? I can't hear you.
All hail McHale!
Guys, seriously, come on. I mean, this is something that actually really needs to be addressed right
Sure.
here.
All right.
All right. So, I didn't like how she did this. I mean, yes, she utilized Ellsworth, but here's the thing. Ellsworth literally went up the ladder, took down the briefcase, and literally handed it to Carmella when she was pretty much half knocked out after a powerbomb from Becky Lynch. I mean, it was a good ladder match up to that. It was a good ladder match at that point. A little tame by usual Money in the Bank standards, but again, this was the first ever women's Money in the Bank, so I tend to give these kind of marquee matches a little bit of leeway in that sense. The problem here is though, okay, you literally had a man go up the ladder, take down the briefcase, and hand it to one of the female competitors. Now, I know what you're going to say, and this is what Carmella actually pointed out herself on SmackDown this past Tuesday, is that, oh, hey, there have been guys that interfered plenty of times for other guys in matches. You had Kane interfere for Seth Rollins in 2014. I'll bring up an example. You had Maurice try to take down the briefcase for Ted DiBiase during a 2010 Money in the Bank ladder match. But the point being is that this is a first ever match, which means there was literally no precedent for how the match should be composed, what rules should be dictated. It's a no DQ match, so typically there'd be no rules. But bottom line is you're trying to establish a solid precedent for a first time match, and instead you had to have a man win what was essentially a woman's match.
Well, I don't know about that.
Okay. Who was the first one with their hands on the briefcase? Answer me that question.
Okay, the man, but who was the one who was fighting?
No, who was the first
wrestling
one
in the
to
ring
put
the
their
whole time?
hands on the woman's Money in the Bank briefcase?
Well, the man.
James Ellsworth. I mean, not much of a man, but yeah, he's still a man.
Not much of a man.
Not much of a man.
Exactly. Okay, but the reason why he was able to climb the ladder and either get that far is because...
Yeah, gotta turn your mic on.
You can't hear me?
Not really.
I hear me.
I hear you. Hold on.
Hold on.
How's that?
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, but the whole reason why he was able to climb the ladder is because the women were all on the floor because they had all wrestled with one another.
Point
It was
is,
like, free pass.
Okay,
Wrestling. Yeah.
but the point is, it's the fact that he was directly involved with Carmella getting Money in the Bank. Like, he literally took down the case and handed it over to her. Okay, if he had done something like, say, hoisted her up on his shoulders, and she grabbed the Money in the Bank because of that, because she was getting a boost from Ellsworth, then that'd be perfectly fine, okay? Because it's within the realm of the rules, okay? He's not directly getting involved in the match. That wouldn't be as big a problem as Ellsworth just going down there, just plucking down the briefcase and handing it over to her. When Carmella, like you said, Carmella didn't even know where she was. She had just been powerbombed by Becky Lynch. She was in a daze. And next thing you know, she's having a briefcase plunked down to her arms, and she doesn't even realize that she's won.
Right.
And I mean, so that was the problem. Okay, within the realm of within the structure of the rules, yes, it was perfectly legal. But the problem is, though, you're trying to set a precedent. And here's the thing: when you're a globally recognized company like WWE, trying to tout as being the forefront of women's revolution in sports entertainment, then how do you think society and how do you think the public's going to respond to, a man had to win the match for a women's match, for a female competitor. A man had to win it for a woman. How do you think they're going to take that? How do you think the public is going to take that?
Well, I never even thought of it until you brought it up. So I didn't think of it that way at all.
I actually didn't.
It was all
didn't
those strong women wrestling together in the match, and that's what I saw.
I saw that too,
he's
and I
just
said
like,
that.
her
I
little
said that this
sidekick.
past Sunday.
And I believe that maybe on her own she would have gotten up.
I mean, and I guess that's the whole reason why they're rebooting the match. Basically, you had Daniel Bryan come out on SmackDown, tell Carmella, okay, you know what, Ellsworth's going to be banned from ringside this time around. We're going to have a rematch for Women's Money in the Bank next Tuesday on SmackDown.
Okay.
And I just think this is WWE. I mean, the problem with this is it exposes WWE's penchant for basically kowtowing to social media. Basically, it's their way of saying, okay,
True.
we know we shot ourselves in the foot on this one, so we're going to take the briefcase. We're basically going to have a do-over next week. Mm-hmm. And I can't imagine anyone else but Carmella winning this, just because, like, okay, this was originally a plan. We just didn't do it right, so we're going to just do it over, and this time Carmella gets to win without Ellsworth. I mean, that's the way I see it going down. I mean, that would make the most sense to me. And I just think, like, this is just, again, another microcosm of WWE booking. I mean, they just, creatively speaking, like, they just tend to put across all this crap at the beginning. And then when see if it sticks. And when it doesn't, in a big way, they have to go out there and basically say, you know what, we admit it, this sucked. So here's what you really wanted.
Yeah, and then they always get the chance for a do-over because they can do it the next week
they
on
always
Raw
do.
or
They always
SmackDown.
have to do a do-over.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the whole. We go back to the whole thing with Bayley and Alexa Bliss. This is your life, and the fact that you had Kurt Angle come out on air, backstage to Alexa Bliss and say to her face, you know what, the segment sucked. It just plain did. No bones about it. It was one of the worst rated segments in Raw television history. That's, I mean, now you have, I mean, this is what they mean by the reality era. You got WWE coming out and basically saying, you know what, okay, from now on, we'll come out and say, you know what, our bad. My bad. Here's what we really should have given you. But that's my problem with this, is that instead of shooting themselves in the foot over and over again, instead of putting out this crap stuff, here's a better idea. Just give the audience what they want in the first place, and we'll stop crapping all over it. We'll stop beating them up about it on social media. We'll stop raging about it so much. I mean, that would probably put me out of a job, and put a bunch of podcasters out of work. But the point being is, just give the audience what they want. I mean, in this case, with this marquee match, give them a clean finish, or kind of like a semi-clean finish. I mean, like I pointed out before, if Ellsworth had been more indirectly involved in Carmella getting the win, then there'd be no argument here. There'd be no argument. Carmella goes down the same line as Edge or Mr. Kennedy or other heels who have won Money in the Bank in previous years.
Gotcha.
Right. I mean, you might want to turn it up just a little bit, just a scotch more. All right. So, you know what? Let's move on from there. Let's move on to the actual Women's Championship match. Naomi versus Lana. Now, okay. Again, this is the first time match. Literally, this is Lana's first televised match. So I'll be as tame about this as possible. It wasn't a bad match per se. I mean, Lana certainly does have some potential, but the problem is she drags her spots out too long. Okay, you could tell that for all the training that she's put in down in the performance center down in Orlando. Okay, she still has a lot of work when it comes to televised matches and keeping a good flow, a good pace going throughout the match. Because there were really some points where the heat really dragged here for her, and I mean, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't bad, but this isn't a first time match for her I would write home about. That's all I got to say. Now, the end where you had Carmella teasing the cash-in, honestly, I think the other part of it, besides the whole controversy with Ellsworth, was the fact that they teased Carmella cashing in twice, and she didn't do it. I mean, imagine how much more she would have stood out in terms of controversy, in terms of previous Money in the Bank winners, if she had capitalized on that controversy and cashed in anyway. I mean, take the decision out of Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon's hands. She goes out there, cashes in, and then what? What? Okay, I mean, you can't strip her of the championship. You can't strip her of the Money in the Bank briefcase if she's already cashed it in. That's what I mean. I mean, I feel like that the other part of this is that they had a real opportunity to really establish a new side to Carmella's character, a new, like, controversial, opportunistic side that we've seen with past Money in the Bank holders, especially Edge. I mean, his nickname was the Ultimate Opportunist, for goodness sakes. But so I feel like that it was, part of it was, of course, the Ellsworth directly being involved. The other part of it was that they really had an opportunity to build more on Carmella's character by having her cash in, and they didn't. So I think that was the other problem. And then, I mean, another problem is that you had Naomi, who had beaten Lana soundly, definitively, by submission. And Lana coming out saying, oh, if it wasn't that little non-distraction by Carmella and Ellsworth, I wouldn't have lost. And Naomi basically said, instead of just moving on, saying, okay, you want another shot? I'll give you another shot. So so this feud's not over. It's going to continue going to next week. So within the span of a week, like 9 days, we already have 2 pay-per-view rematches. Literally. I mean, we have a women's championship match and we have a women's Money in the Bank ladder match. I mean, hey, girls night out. But
there you go.
Okay, you gotta turn up the mic because
you can't hear me now.
I can't hear you. You gotta turn it up.
Okay, keep talking. I'll work on it.
All right. So there's that. I mean, what's the point of having these matches on pay-per-view if you're just going to rebroadcast them literally a week later? A week later. Ooh. Okay. All right. Oh yeah, that's a little loud. Okay, there we go. All right. So, I mean, I get that you have rematches a couple weeks afterwards, but like literally, I mean, the women's championship match, I guess, is fine. But having the whole Money in the Bank reboot, just like, again, like I pointed out, just, I mean, it wouldn't be necessary if they just like, capitalized more on like Carmella actually cashing in instead of waiting for Daniel Bryan to strip her of the case, which you had to think she knew was going to happen. Character-wise, you had to think that, oh yeah, Bryan's totally going to take the briefcase away from me, so I should probably cash it in while I have the chance. And she never took it.
Can you hear me better now?
A little better, yeah.
Okay.
So I feel like the big part of the problem is that there was just a lot of missed opportunities here, both coming like from the women's Money in the Bank match and the women's championship match itself. A lot of it revolving around Carmella. All right, so let's bring it over to, let's see what we got. Well, we had the kickoff match, I believe. Oh, well, actually, no. We didn't have a kickoff match, did we? Or did we?
No, we didn't.
We didn't. Oh, yeah, well, because, we didn't find out until Sunday. Yeah, it ended up being Breezango. Actually, no. We actually ended up being...
Hype Brothers.
Hype Bros versus the Colognes. Now, I've heard the rumor mill going on around here about Mojo supposedly turning on Zach out of, frustration. Not finding himself in the main event, and kind of being pigeonholed back into the tag team ranks with Zach. I do like though that the Hype Bros did get the win here over the Colognes. All right, they do have a legitimate claim to a #1 contendership for the tag team titles. Daniel Bryan agreed with them and said, you know what? Okay, if you can win a match against the Usos next week, you'll have your shot. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see if this is where they do the split with Mojo and Zach, or if we see them can actually get the shot. Oh, got a little feedback.
Yeah, I hear it too.
All right.
All right, is that better?
That's better. Thank you.
But can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. No, I can hear you loud and clear. You don't. All right. So okay. All right. Oh yeah, our usual fair share of technical difficulties here. The Wrestling Connection.
Gotta love it. Cable access.
Gotta love it. Cable access. All right. So moving on from the kickoff match, we come to the actual tag team championship match. New Day challenging the Usos for the SmackDown Live tag team titles. Now, I thought this was a very fun, action-packed match, playing back and forth, great near falls, great false finishes, especially near the end, which seemed like New Day was closing in on the tag team titles, only for Jimmy Uso to break up the pinfall on Jey Uso, and Usos decided to take a walk and take the count-out loss. Now, I hear a couple of comments. I've heard a couple of comments since then saying like they didn't like this. They felt like that the Usos should have like had a more physical way of getting themselves out of this match, like using a steel chair or something or other. I'm actually perfectly fine with it. Okay, basically it showed how evenly matched the new heel Usos versus New Day are. And it shows that that Usos aren't just aggressive tag team champions; they're smart tag team champions. You realize you're fighting a losing battle. You have the championship. You have the champion's advantage. Take a walk, okay? Take a walk. Live the fight another day. I mean, yes, New Day get the count-out win. Big E gets the win over Jey Uso this past Tuesday on SmackDown, which obviously means this feud is not over, and I like that. All right, you had a great match. You didn't take the belt. They didn't go with a knee-jerk reaction by putting the belts on New Day, which I didn't think would be the right move anyway. So, which I didn't. I honestly didn't think would be the right move, which is why I went with the Usos. But I can understand why they gave New Day the win. Okay, New Day gets a win, Usos keep the belts, and the feud keeps on rolling. So you know what? So I actually thought this an all-around solid affair, and I think the result makes perfect sense. I mean, I know I usually frown on count-out and DQ finishes and pay-per-views, but this is a time where it worked. It did, to be honest. All right, Julie. I mean, I know you're a big New Day fan. I know you're also a fan of the Usos. What did you think of this? What do you think of this match?
Yeah, I was a little confused by it.
Oh, how so?
Well, it just definitely wasn't the outcome I was expecting. And I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it just wasn't the outcome that I was expecting. But I am glad to see more New Day because I like them. You know, I like the Bootios. You ain't booty.
Me too. I mean, you can never get enough New Day. But I do like what we got going with the Usos. They are certainly reinvigorated. They're using subtle tactics, which I like. I mean, you still see the same aggressive athleticism that you see with the Usos, but you also see little nuances. You see them taking little heel tactics and dividing and conquering and basically doing everything they can to hold on to championships and their championships, which I like. Okay, I like the new Uso wave we're experiencing right here. You have a team that kind of was stagnating for a couple of years, like we talked about, and now they've been revitalized since the Raw SmackDown split, which I like. They're the tag team to beat on SmackDown, so that's good. They've firmly established themselves as solid tag team champions. All right, so moving on from there, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that brings us to the WWE Championship match.
All right.
Brings us to Randy Orton challenging Jinder Mahal in Orton's hometown of St. Louis, Missouri. Now, as I pointed out on Sunday, I felt like this was a much more solid affair between the two. Mahal looked much more comfortable in a main event scenario than he did challenging Orton for the championship. And whereas Orton was more or less going paint by color, like paint by numbers in his last match at Backlash, you had him in front of his hometown, in front of his father and friends and family members, and I felt like he put forward a much better effort right here. It's just when you get to the second half that it pretty much looked like how the first match went. You had Orton getting incensed at the Singh brothers this time, who went after Orton's father, Bob Orton, Cowboy Bob Orton. And Randy gets incensed, basically beats the Singh brothers all around the ring, dropping of RKOs, including a scintillating midair RKO through one of the announce tables. And then as soon as he gets back in and refocuses on Jinder, Jinder hits a shot to his bad knee, hits the Colossus, retains the championship. Now, what I liked throughout this match was how Mahal attempted or did use moves that were used by Hall of Fame, like legendary members at ringside. Like you had him using the superplex, which was a staple Cowboy Bob Orton in his heyday. You had him using the figure four of the Nature Boy Ric Flair. Still not as good as Miz's, I guess, but but I like that. It was a classic heel tactic by Mahal. He had the audacity to use the same moves as the legends who were sitting at ringside, rooting on Randy Orton. I like that. It was a classic maneuver by him. Again, like I said, it loses a little luster just because it had the same ending and result as the first match. But now you have a much more incensed Orton who's more focused on getting revenge on Mahal than the WWE Championship. And supposedly the rumor going around is that at WWE Battleground, we're going to see the return of a very rare stipulation match. It's only been done twice in WWE history. Julie, I don't know if you remember this. The Punjabi prison match.
No, I do not.
Now, this was brought around in the heyday of the former Punjabi playboy, the Great Khali, between 2006 and 2007. basically, you had 2 cages of bamboo, one built around the ring and one built around the ring side area. Basically, the objective of the Punjabi prison match is that there are four gates, one on each side of the ring. Once you feel like you have your opponent beat down enough, you ask the ringside refs to open one of the cage doors, one of the gates, and you only have 30 seconds to get out. After that gate will be locked, and you can't use it for the rest of the match. Then basically after once you escaped to ringside, the objective there is to scale the bamboo wall, come down the other side. Whoever escapes first is the winner. Now, the match has only been done twice. The first time was at the Great American Bash in 2006 with The Undertaker versus Big Show. It was originally supposed to be Undertaker versus Great Khali, but unfortunately Khali had a medical emergency. He had elevated liver enzymes. He couldn't compete in the match. Then you had the second Punjabi prison match, which, if I'm not mistaken, someone please correct me if I'm wrong about this, was the Great Khali versus Batista the following year. All right, so like I said, very rare match, and the test that the fact that time heals all wounds hasn't really healed just like how awkwardly stunted these matches were. So I wouldn't be surprised if they brought this back, considering, I mean, let's face facts, okay? They only ever brought up this match when you were concerned, when WWE was concerned with an Indian main eventer. I mean, Khali was in the main event at that time on SmackDown, so you know what, stick him. That's how they came up with the whole Punjabi prison match. So considering, I mean, okay, you got Jinder Mahal, who's devoted to his 1.3 billion fans over in India.
Wow.
So
how many?
Well, yeah, that's the population. That's the population in India, over 1.3 billion.
Got it.
So I would not be surprised to see the match come up again. I mean, just to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised. All right, so moving on from there, we had a little breather match between the WWE Championship match and the main event, and one of the other main events, which was the Money in the Bank, the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. We had Breezango trying to figure out the mystery of who assaulted Breeze and demolished the Fashion Police headquarters, which turned out to be, of all people, the Ascension. Never mind, you could have used America Alpha for this role, since they're not doing anything. But yeah, basically just harmless little breather match. Breezango gets the win after Fandango rolls up Connor, and so basically Breezango get their little revenge and move on. Yeah. Speaking of which, let's move on to this. The men's Money in the Bank ladder match. I thought this was one of the better done Money in the Bank matches in recent memory. I don't know if I'd rank it up there with the original from 2005, but I thought it was a great match. You had everyone here firing on all cylinders. I was very... My curiosity, my interest was piqued when they had Shinsuke, when they had Nakamura make his entrance, only for Corbin to come out and assault Nakamura and take him out. Now, within the realm of the storyline, it makes perfect sense. Corbin saw Nakamura as one of the big threats. You had Nakamura ascending the ladder on SmackDown the Tuesday before to take down the briefcase and showing he could win it. So Corbin took out the big threat right here. The other caveat being, off air, is that, okay, let's face facts. I wasn't 100% about Shinsuke being in this match to begin with, since, like I pointed out last week, he's never been in a ladder match in his life. Even when he was wrestling over for New Japan, okay? In Japanese wrestling, they rarely, if ever, have ladder matches. So the fact is, he's never been in a ladder match before. So I kind of frowned on that. In hindsight, I'm thinking, so why did they put Shinsuke in this match to begin with if he has no ladder match experience? Like, literally, none. Zero. Nada. Look it up. He's never been in a ladder match. I mean, look it up. Prove me wrong. I mean, if I'm wrong, okay. I mean, I'll take that bullet. But I mean, bottom line is, why did you put Shinsuke in here to begin with? I mean, yes, he did have a few hot minutes at the end of the match where he stormed the ring, took out Corbin, came within an inch, and had a very interesting standoff with one AJ Styles, which you have to think is kind of a tease for AJ and Shinsuke to kind of like revitalize their New Japan feud and maybe going into SummerSlam. Because honestly, a match between these two, I would love. I would love to see a match between AJ and Shinsuke. I mean, I watched their stuff down in New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's unbelievable the chemistry these two have and the matches they had with each other. I would love that. I would love to see that on SummerSlam. All right, so anyway, everyone did their piece. AJ had his moment. Ziggler was the crafty veteran trying to cut everyone down from getting the ladder. Owens was his usual aggressive self. Zayn in particular was a standout right here. Just like he at one point he took out everyone. He took out Corbin with a Hoover kick. He hit a nasty half Nelson suplex to Owens on the ring apron. Took out Ziggler. Took out Styles. Seemed to be closing in. Only to be waylaid by Corbin and Ziggler. All right. I mean, you had everyone making a grab for this, but in the end, you had AJ and Shinsuke going up to get the briefcase. Corbin comes out of nowhere, pushes them both off the ladder, gets the briefcase, and your 2017 Men's Money in the Bank winner is Baron Corbin. Like I said, I mean, my pick. I know it was Julie's pick. It was Julie's number one pick. My number one pick. I think it was actually Michaela's number one pick. Michaela's number one pick too. So a lot of us called Corbin to win this match, simply because I know what Michaela's reasoning was, but my reasoning was that Corbin has the most upside out of anyone. Like I said, AJ and Owens. I mean, they're both former champions, former world champions. You can put them in a world title feud anytime. You don't need Money in the Bank. Ziggler isn't relevant enough on the radar anymore to warrant Money in the Bank run. And Shinsuke, like I said, I mean, it was just, I think, too much too soon. All right, you're trying to WWE's trying to capitalize off his debut, but I feel like putting the Money in the Bank briefcase on him would have been rushing things. So it came down to Zayn and Corbin, and of course, I ended up going with Corbin my first, Zayn my second, and I mean, and look what happened. So Corbin came out on top here. I mean, I like that already teasing him, cashing in on Jinder Mahal per se, basically letting him know that, even if you're a fellow heel, I'm not going to hesitate to cash in on you. It's not an unprecedented notion. You have to remember back to 2010 coming out of WrestleMania, where you had Jack Swagger, a heel, win the Money in the Bank briefcase, and a couple of days later cash in on a heel world heavyweight champion in Chris Jericho. So again, not an unprecedented notion. So it could very well happen. You never know. Could I see it going to an extended feud? I don't think so. With very few exceptions, heel versus heel, like actual heel versus heel feuds, don't really come across well on TV because the crowd honestly doesn't know who to cheer or who to boo. I mean, it's a very simple notion. Who do you cheer? Who do you boo? And if you have two heels, and it's like, oh my God, it's madness. Who do we boo? Who do we cheer in this case? Like, who comes across as more sympathetic? Neither guy really. I mean, you've got Jinder, who's like I said, devoted to his country and very anti-American, and you have Corbin, who really just doesn't give a darn about anyone. He doesn't care about anyone, so he wouldn't care if the fans were cheering for him or not. So neither would evoke much sympathy from where I stand. So if this were to be a cash-in, I don't really see a big extended feud coming out of it, simply because I just don't think either guy would really get the cheers that WWE would look for either guy, if that's what they're looking for. All right, so that is our pay-per-review for Money in the Bank. A couple of pieces of interesting news. First, some cleaning up the dirt sheets. A dirt sheet dilemma right here. Not so much a dilemma as actually good news right here. We recently found out that Mauro Ranallo, that's right, Mauro Ranallo, former WWE announcer, will be returning to announce, actually, get this, at NXT, WWE's NXT brand, which I think is great. I mean, it just makes NXT just that much better. I'm really looking forward to this. I'm glad Mauro decided he's coming back. Triple H is excited. WWE's excited. Everyone is excited. And now the thing is, okay, and I didn't touch on this nearly as much as I touched on the whole situation with Mauro and JBL bullying, harassing him, however you will call it. The other problem with Mauro, as we touch on, was that the fact that Mauro does have bipolar disorder. And the thing about it is when you have bipolar and you're traveling when you're traveling 300 plus days out of the year, that takes its toll on you on both ends, on both your manic side and your depressive side. All right, and we saw a lot of Mauro's manic side. We saw a lot of how he funneled that into his announcing, how he utilized that as part of his creative announcing, his creative tone when it came to his announcing, which we liked. We liked how in-depth he was. We liked how excited and how enthusiastic he was to be on every episode of SmackDown. But obviously, when you're someone in Mauro's position who's traveling from town to town, from state to state, sometimes even country to country, it takes its toll on you, especially when you're dealing with a disorder like Mauro is. Like, okay, it wears on you, having to get acclimated to a new atmosphere, to a new area, all right, whereas not only on your manic and your depressive sides, but it ramps up your anxiety as well. So I can imagine why Mauro needed time away. Not if only because of the whole issue of this supposed issue, or even he says non-issues with JBL, but simply, like you said, because of the stress of travel, which is perfectly understandable. But I'm glad to see he's coming back. I'm glad to see he's coming back to NXT. And I think we can all look forward to him alongside Nigel McGuinness on commentary. I'm really looking forward to that. So, Mauro, welcome back. All right, so this piece of news is very, very interesting. You know the way I said that. Okay, interesting. Yes. Now, we all saw this past week on Monday Night Raw, where Roman Reigns came out at the top of the show, announced that he was going to be challenging the winner of Brock Lesnar versus Samoa Joe, coming out of Great Balls of Fire, at SummerSlam for the Universal title. Now, that's got me very, very curious, because I thought the plan was going to be Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 34. So everyone thought that. Everyone thought that was the end game here. Lesnar versus Reigns 2 at WrestleMania 34. Not so much. Now, it's been reported, like I said, for several months that the plan was to have Lesnar fight Braun Strowman for the Universal title at SummerSlam, with Reigns penciled in for other plans. The latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer, good old reliable Dave Meltzer, said that the plan in WWE as of 2 weeks ago was still for Lesnar versus Strowman at SummerSlam. He said that WWE does decide to change plans. It could be due to the low TV ratings. Interesting. The feeling backstage is Lesnar's limited TV series is hurting ratings because the Universal title isn't on TV as often. If plans change and Lesnar versus Reigns was originally set for WrestleMania, could be moved up to SummerSlam. Okay, so let me get this straight. So it's purely because of Lesnar's limited time on Raw that Raw's ratings are in the toilet. Raw's ratings are horrible. That's the reason. I mean, I can't deny. I mean, we've discussed this, and Julie, you and I have discussed this in the past.
Yep, I'm right here.
That Lesnar, the champion, not being on Raw consistently does hurt somewhat. The fact that you don't see a champion. You're just thinking, okay, so why should I take Raw so seriously if its champion can't be bothered to show up? We've discussed this several times. We discussed this all the way back in 2014 when Lesnar first won the WWE, the undisputed WWE title, and then we barely saw him. I mean, at first I agreed with Heyman's notion that, oh hey, the longer you hold off a champion, the more people are excited when he finally comes back. The point being is, though, now you have him on a singular brand. You have him on a singular brand now, so it's going to be that much more apparent when you don't see him. Okay? And the show's ratings are going to suffer. It's one thing to have him not show up for any show, because, like, okay, you have multiple opportunities on Raw and SmackDown to mask up the fact that, hey, we don't have a champion showing up. But now you have him you have him focalized on one brand, Raw, the flagship brand of WWE. So so I can understand where they might think that ratings are going down because Lesnar's not on as often. It could also be the notion that, okay, hey, the show's just not that good. I mean, instead of putting the blame on one performer, okay, take a hard look at the rest of the show. Take a look at the fact that as soon as the third hour comes along, that's where the ratings take the biggest slide. I mean, the one thing the fans have been complaining about for months, is that, okay, Raw needs to go back to 2 hours. I mean, you've heard this discussed. Oh, yes, we have more opportunity. I mean, yes, the reason we do 3 hours is because we have more. It gives opportunity, more time to put all our superstars in the air. Okay, 3 hours go by. You barely put. You have stupid.
All hail McHale!
You have these little stupid backstage segments and 30-minute promos where stuff takes they take so long getting around to explain something that can be explained in literally a half or even a third of the time. Okay, you ever think that maybe the reason ratings drag is that, okay, people are pretty much exhausted by the time they get through the first 2 hours and they don't want to watch the third hour, they don't want to see what happens?
I agree with that.
Okay, stick to 2 hours, okay? SmackDown is a consistently solid show. It may not always blow people away, but the fact is they pack everything they can into 2 hours and it comes across that much better instead of trying to stretch everything out and pretty much put everyone to sleep by the time 10 o'clock rolls around. Heck, they're trying to focus on the kids. They're trying to focus on the teenage demographic. And the problem is most kids aren't up past 10 o'clock. I mean, there's the irony right there. You're trying to appeal. I mean, you're trying to be a family-friendly programming, a family-friendly company, trying to appeal to kids, and you don't even understand the basic notion that most kids aren't going to be up that long to watch a full 3 hours of Raw. I mean, WWE wonders why their whole median age for viewership is in the 40s right now, is in the age 40s, which is crazy. I mean, that's literally double from what they had last year. If you check the statistics, is that, okay? Like the average median age, the median age for viewership is in the 40s, which is a little kind of frightening if you ask me. All right, and never mind. And the other notion is, okay, and I don't usually bring up NXT very often, but in this case, I think it's good for prime example. You have someone like Bobby Roode. Who's the the glorious Bobby Roode. Glorious Bobby Roode, who's the NXT champion, who doesn't always show up for every show, or if he does, he shows up in a little backstage segment. Even when he doesn't show up, the good thing is you have a collection of different characters, a different collection of different performers that you can put on in different parts each and every week. You see, that's why NXT puts across a solid effort every week, because they have an assortment of wrestlers that they can put on there. All right, Raw and SmackDown have an assortment of different wrestlers too. They just don't use them. They just don't use all of them like NXT does. That's why even when you don't have the NXT champion show up for a show, it doesn't suffer because you have other wrestlers putting forth a solid effort to entertain you. So if Raw could just do that, I mean, SmackDown does that to a degree, so they stand better with 2 hours. If Raw did that and trim back to 2 hours, then I think they would come across a much more solid program, and I don't think the ratings would suffer nearly as much as they've had this year. I think that's the bottom line, okay? It's not because of Lesnar. Yeah, it does hurt not having Lesnar on as frequently because he is a special attraction. Can't deny that. He is. But, again, if you have him on every week, he's not so much a special attraction. He's just a champion to beat. Okay? So it's fine if he's off for a week or two, but those weeks that he's off, they need to put a better creative effort into putting Raw across as a solid, entertaining program. Like SmackDown and like NXT. If they did that, then you know what? I guarantee ratings would go up. Trim it back to 2 hours. Put more focus on even just a bit characters like the Heath Slater and Rhino, or Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas. We saw focus on them this past week on Raw. That's great. Put more focus on them, and then trim it back to 2 hours. Have everyone get their bits and pieces in, and I guarantee you ratings will go up for Raw. That's my say. All right, so we have come to the end of another great fun-filled episode of the Wrestling Connection. I believe that in a couple of weeks we will be having our pay-per-preview view of Great Balls of Fire. And the thing I'm concerned about is I'm afraid to bring up the logo for Great Balls of Fire, the pay-per-view logo, just because I took one look at it and I laughed, and I'm just like, how are they getting away with this? You literally have Great Balls of Fire soaring past, and I'm just thinking, oh my God, parents are gonna be all over this. Julie, I'm going to show you the logo afterwards.
Okay.
Just so you know what I'm talking about.
Alrighty.
Because I'm honestly afraid to put the logo up here, just because what personally how I see it.
All right. I'm going to pull it up right now.
Okay.
Not on the air in the control room.
Not on the air. Good. Don't say I didn't warn you.
All right. I'm looking. Hold on.
Wait for it.
I think I see it.
Yep.
Oh, my God.
Yep. What did I tell you? What did I tell you? I warned you.
I see it.
Yep.
Okay.
If I can see it and you can see it, and I mean, oh God, I mean,
We'll stick with Dennis Quaid for now.
yeah, let's just stick with Dennis Quaid for now, because like I said, if we put this on, I'm afraid we're going to be getting phone calls from the Bedford parents. That's what That's what I'm worried about. Okay, because if like I said, if I think this is I mean, you know me. If I think this is offensive, then what do you think the parents would say?
Right.
So yeah, let's not go there.
Alrighty.
All right. So like I said, a couple of weeks.
Moving on.
Great Balls of Fire. So next week will just be a regular old show. See what we've got in store for that. But in the meantime, you have a good, fun-filled, hopefully not thunderstorm-filled weekend like we just had just a couple hours ago. But hopefully you have just a nice, regular weekend. Like me, like Julie, like Greg, like everyone here at the Wrestling Connection and Bedford TV. Hey, get that off of there. Get that off.
I've heard it too many times to ignore it. It's something that I'm supposed to be. Someday we'll find it.
The Wrestling Connection. The lovers, the dreamers, and me.